Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's lesson. I hope you guys are all keeping warm on this fine morning. A little bit nippy out there, so I hope you guys are braving the cold. All right, hopefully you guys have all got the Lichess opened up. Just a reminder to please keep those microphones muted during the course of the lesson. I am going to share the screen like I did last week. I think that makes the most sense. Just a reminder to please, when I ask for your participation, to please type the messages in the Lichess chat room as opposed to the Zoom chat room. It just makes it a little bit easier for me. Of course, if you can't access the Lichess for whatever reason chat room, then the Zoom one will do fine. So not the end of the world. All right. So you guys should be able to see everything, and let's jump right into it. Okay. All right. So our first topic of discussion, I got a couple checkmate in ones for us lined up here. I thought I'd mix it up a little bit this week. Last couple of weeks, we've been talking a little bit of end games and end game technique. I thought this week I'd mix it up a bit, and we do a little bit of checkmates just to get the brain warmed up, and then from there we'll jump right into some opening principles and some actual gameplay. I hope you guys have been following the program and doing the things that I set out for you guys. I see quite a few of you been playing some chess games online. That's good. I'd like to see more of it. Remember, I have followed a lot of you on the Lichess, so I do see and can keep up to date with your activity and see what games you're playing, how's it going. Remember, practice makes perfect, and Lichess is a great platform. You just literally click on a time control that suits you, and you can get right into a game within a minute. So it really makes a lot of sense. If you guys have got a little bit of spare time, you're like, oh, I've got some spare time, cool. Let me just jump right into a quick game, get a game done. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so first one up, we've got white. We can see the black king is on the run here. We've got a little checkmate in one for white. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds. Please type something in here into the Lichess chat room, or alternatively, like I said, if you can't win there, you can do it in the Zoom chat room. I want you guys to participate. Don't just sit there and listen. Well, you need to listen, but just get involved as well. Give me an answer. Say, coach, I'm thinking queen here. I'm thinking pawn there. Something. All right. That's a good one. Someone's getting involved there. Looks like Rico. Thank you. Pawn to g3. That's a nice idea. We've got a queen h6. I'm thinking he meant queen h3. I'm thinking he meant queen h3. That's cool. Anybody else want to throw their hat into the ring? Maybe try something. Pawn g3 looks good. So far we've had a queen h3. We've had a pawn to g3. These both look like good moves. Remember, they both check. It has to be check in order for it to be checkmate. That's for certain. So you need to be looking at all possible checks. If you are looking for a mate, it needs to be check. Otherwise, of course, it's not going to be mate. So we'll just see if anybody else wants to give it a shot. And then we'll dissect this. Okay, doesn't look like it, guys. Remember, try and get involved. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong. It's not a problem. You're going to learn something. That's the objective here. So pawn to g3, it's close. I mean, it actually looks like it would have been mate, but what doesn't appear so obvious is that once you've moved the pawn off g2, we are no longer controlling the h3 square. So now the black king is able to move to h3, and it's not mate. The correct move. Queen h3, nicely done. Okay, first question should be like, wait a minute, can't this king just take the queen on h3? And then no, it can't. The pawn is defending the queen on h3. That puts that idea to rest. And then you start looking at alternatives, that all of the king's available squares have been covered. That is mate. It's check. There's no escaping the check. It's mate. game over, white wins. Let's move on. Okay, so I put a little bit of a hint here for you guys. It's black to play and it's checkmate in one, but you can see that the pawn is attacking the rook. I just wanted you guys to also know which way the pawns are going. Sometimes when you look at a board, it's not immediately clear which side is which. And I think it's important that you guys just have a look at 7 and 8 and 1 and 2, and then you can see who's on which side. Obviously, the 1 and the 2, or the white pieces starting this side of the board, and the black pieces starting this side of the board. So you know which way is which and which way the pawns are going. So the white pawns are coming down the board in this example. All right, so it's black to play and deliver checkmate in one. There's actually quite a few in this position. So I thought that would make a nice change. Quite a few options. You can, again, type them into the chat. Either chat will do. I'm going to let you do that now. Let's take 30 seconds. Just try and see if we can find some checkmates. Remember, it has to be check in order for it to be mate. Let's see what we can come up with. We've got a rook b1. That's a nice try. We'll get into that now. Very nice. Cool. Thank you. Let's see who else can come up with something. Queen e1. I like it. Thank you. It's a nice move. Just as far as the notation goes, remember, when you use a piece, if it's the queen, the rook, the knight, whatever the case might be, it's capital letter for that piece. Queen c3, queen e1. Everyone's on the ball. Love it. That's brilliant. So we've had rook b1. We've had queen c3. We've had queen e1 as well. That's 3 checkmates. They all work. I think there's one more on the board. Let's see if somebody can find it. So we've had this rook to b1. We've had queen c3. And we've had queen e1 as well. And there's one more sneaky little mate lurking on this board. Let's see if we can find it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. There's a sneaky. I'll give you a clue. It's with the queen. Queen e4. I'm pretty sure he meant d4. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It seems like, and there we go. I think that's Boucher who's come up with queen d4. Very nice, guys. And that is queen d4 here. And then we can see that also attacks the king. And that is our 4th mate for the position. Fantastic. Let's try these out. Rook b1. Of course, the queen defends the rook. So the king can't touch the rook. That takes care of that one. Nicely spotted. Then queen e1 came in. A good one as well. The rook's got these squares covered. So there's no escape for the king. Queen c3 was also very nicely spotted. Same kind of story. And then queen d4, essentially the same as the queen c3, checking the king on the diagonal. Nowhere to run. Bit of an easy one. A lot of little options. And see, sometimes there's a few ways that you can get the job done. So that's well spotted, guys. Good stuff. Let's move on. Again, we've got a couple options here. Black to play and mate. You can see black's on the side of the board, white's on the side of the board. So again, just so that you know which way the pawn's going, it's important, or in this case, it's definitely relevant, because that means the pawn covers certain squares that wouldn't allow you to mate them there. All right, so again, same story, guys. Let's get involved. Let's see if we can find some mates. Black to play, mate in 1. Well, there's a couple. There's a mate in 2. I think that option's there, but we'd rather try and get the job done as quickly as possible. So mate in 1 is always going to be preferable to mate in 2. So we've got somebody in the chat here. We've got a queen to b5. That looks good. That looks pretty good. We've got somebody who's, that's a nice one. There's definitely a couple more available in this position. I'm going to give you guys a bit of a clue, like a king and a rook checkmate. That might spark a few ideas, but thank you for that one. Let's see if we've got some more lurking. Looks actually, again, it's probably about four potential mates available here in this position. Queen 7a, a7, it's also looking pretty good. Queen d5. Queen d5 looks good. You cover all the squares, but the problem is I think we've got a stalemate there, unfortunately. Guys, remember, in order for it to be checkmate, there has to be a check. I think that's critical. Okay, it can't be checkmate if there is no check. So just be very aware of that. And of course, stalemate, we've had this conversation a few times where we address the fact that stalemate is a big enemy here. And stalemate obviously results in a draw, and we definitely don't want a stalemate. All right, another one, queen a6. So we've had queen b5, queen a6, queen a7, and queen d5. Okay, let's talk about queen b5 first. That was a nice quick response, and that's pretty much mate. Quite easy. I think the only square that would have been available for the white king is a3. The pawn's occupying that. There's just nothing really to talk about here. Main story is that the king defends the queen, and we've got a nice little mate here. All good. Then the clue that I gave you guys with, king and rook checkmate is that you've got a little opposition here. So by placing the piece on any one of these three squares, it would be mate, because your king is covering, let's choose a new color here. The black king covers these three squares. So the white king doesn't have those squares. So the only square you really need to cover is a5. You need to cover a5 and attack the king at the same time. As we can see, queen coming to these three squares does that job. Queen a6 is good. Queen a7 is good as well. Queen a8, same kind of story. The king can't escape this way along the b file. And that is that. Queen b6 and queen d5, we'll put them in the same sort of category, and we'll say we want to try and avoid those moves, guys. I think whenever you are approaching checkmate like we are in this situation, I'm always telling you guys to be on the lookout for stalemate. Remember, stalemate will result in a draw, and the last thing you want in this situation is to draw this game. Remember, that's a tie, and there's no way. You've worked hard to get to this position. You're about to win the game. The last thing you want to do is now draw the game. You know, I mean, this should be a victory for black. So we need to always remember that we need to leave at least one square open for the enemy king or for the opponent king. Otherwise, you know, then we're going to stalemate, and stalemate's a draw, and we just don't want that. So queen b6. No available moves for the white pieces. Again, the pawn is not going this way. He's coming this way. So, sorry, he's coming down the board. So there's no moves for him either. Okay, so that pretty much covers this. Nicely done, guys. Good participation. Good answers as well. All right, so like I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about opening play today, and not just about end games. So we got the standard starting position here. So we're going to focus a little bit on white pieces today. I think next time we chat, then I'll talk about some openings with black. So I'm talking about a little bit of variety for you guys here. We're going to discuss both d4 and e4 opening moves for white. So these are my two favorite starting moves, and that is pawn to d4 and alternatively pawn to e4. So you guys always, you know, I'm always talking about our opening principles or our opening rules. I know most of you will remember those, and that's pawns in the center, develop the pieces, and castle the king. And those are very important opening principles that you need to apply to every game that you play, no matter what opening you choose. But we'll see how we apply those in an actual situation. now when we go through a game. All right, so d4. I really don't mind. I'm not going to say that I'd prefer for you to play d4 or e4. I'm going to give you both options, and you guys decide whichever works for you, or whichever looks better for you. Let's go knight f6 here. Okay. So again, what did we say? We follow our principles. You're not sure what to do. You're like, what should I do here? Okay, coach said I need to develop my pieces. Which pieces is he talking about? Oh, he's talking about knights and bishops. Okay, cool. So how am I going to do that? Well, let's get the knight out. This makes sense to me. Okay. Let's play black as well. Black needs to control some of the center. Now, my plan here is to go e3 and bishop d3. And then I'm going to castle. But before I do that, I realize that if I go e3, I'm going to block this bishop in. And this bishop won't really have the ability to then get out. You'll sort of be a bit caged in. So what I like to do here is I like to go bishop f4 first. A bit of a London system that we're talking about here. Let's mix it up a little bit. Let's say black plays here. Again, guys, remember, whenever you're playing a game, be very careful every time your opponent makes a move. Try and ask yourselves what's changed. You know, what are they thinking about? What's going on in this position? Okay, so let's follow through with our plan. We're going to go e3. We're going to develop the bishop. You see, again, every move we are trying to accomplish something. Every move is being used, you know, with purpose. Let's go bishop d6. Again, like I said, why did he play this move? What is he threatening? What's changed? Ooh, you might want to take my bishop here. Well, I am defended, so it's not the end of the world. So we've got two good moves here. Option A is knight e5. And option B is maybe just to take. For today's chat, let's take this bishop. Queen takes is good. Pawn takes is also decent. Let's go queen takes. Let's develop this knight. Again, development. Each move, I need to get a piece into the game. Each move, we need to try and improve our position. Let's go bishop d7. Like we said, we need to develop this piece. Bishop d3 makes sense. It seems like a good one. Let's castle. Let's castle. Guys, just a reminder, mute those microphones, please. And knight c6. Okay, so at this point, both players have developed all their pieces and castled their king. And this is a good example of people that know what they're doing on the chessboard. Let's say they understand that it's important to activate the pieces, and they understand that it's not a good idea to waste moves on unnecessary things. So white has a nice tactic in this position. I'm going to give you guys 30 seconds to give me a move. Again, suggestions, throw the moves into the chats, either on Lichess or on Zoom. I want a nice attacking move for white. If there was no good attacking move here, probably the next step after developing pieces and casting the king would be to move the queen. Maybe queen e2 or queen d2 would also be good, just so that I can connect the rooks, and then probably bring the rooks into the center of the board, and then I could maybe break. This would be a nice traditional way of continuing. But like I already mentioned, there's a nifty little attacking move that white has in this position that I'd like you guys to see if you can find for me. I see we've got somebody in the chat. Let's see what we got here. Knight g5, hey? Okay, knight g5, excuse me. That was a little bit of a misclick. Knight g5. So that's our first answer in the chat. Thank you very much for that one. Let's see, excuse me, what he could be up to with knight g5. Well, for me, knight g5 always looks, I'm always thinking, about that h7 target. That's what knight g5 is normally all about, looking for ways to get that. It looks like the knight's already defending that square, so maybe not going to be that useful. It's a nice try, though. I know often this knight pops here, and then people will bring the queen in. Either to f3 and then h3, and sometimes in certain situations, excuse me, the queen can jump straight to the h5 square. But in this case, the knight's there, so that's not really going to be an option here. Guys, the move I'm actually looking for in this position is knight to b5. It's also possible that you just mix the squares up. And my plan here is to attack the queen. I know how you guys love hunting down the opponent's queen. Queen in the bag is good news. It's probably going to be, you know, one of the easier ways to win a game. Just pick up an opponent's queen, and then you're winning on material. Trade off all the pieces and head for a smooth victory. But it's not just about the queen here. We're also looking at this c7 square. So, of course, I would assume that my opponent would find the move with the queen, either now queen b4, which might be a bit risky because they're bringing the queen into sort of no man's land, or alternatively, queen e7. But the point there is that it opens up this c7 square. And what is my knight on c7 now attacking? Who can tell me? Quick, pop it in the type in the chat room there, please, guys. The knight is targeting a piece. And the rook. Okay, the rook on a8. All right, that's the one. So the knight would love it if you would just forget about that rook, and he'd very happily gobble that rook up for you without too many questions asked. So, I mean, again, you need to think of good moves for your opponent, but you can hope that maybe they make a bad move and that things work out well for you. But you need to be expecting good replies and good moves from the opposition. So probably rook c8, attacking the knight, that gets the rook out of danger and then puts a little bit of pressure on your knight, in which case you seemingly have to just run back. Look at what safe squares, that's not safe, not safe, not safe. It seems like I pretty much have to just return to b5. So a small victory, but a victory nevertheless. I've picked up a free pawn, and that's a good way to start, guys. Remember, one free pawn is good enough. That pawn can later on end up promoting into a queen. Also, don't forget that idea that we spoke about with potentially knight g5 and queen h5, and then the queen jumping to h7. Also a useful one. Just to recap, I'm going to go back to the start here. Guys, opening principles. Doesn't matter which opening you choose, you follow the principles. Pawns in the center, develop the pieces, castle the king. So again, we start with pawn in the center, and then we start developing our pieces. Generally, it's knights before bishops, but it's not really the most important opening rule. It often doesn't make a difference. So we can see black also applying good opening technique, making sure that he also doesn't waste moves with unnecessary things that don't improve the position. Okay, both parties developing and casting good moves. And then we reached the situation where both sides had developed and casted. We talked a bit about knight g5, and then we found this nifty little tactic of knight b5. Like I said, if that isn't there, you probably would have continued with queen e2, centralized your rooks, and then you can always break in the center. Okay, awesome. That covers 1d4. Let's move on to our next chapter of discussion, which is 1e4. And like I said earlier, I don't mind which one you choose. I think it's much of a muchness. It's basically the same thing. We'll have a look at this now. e4, this is a king's pawn opening instead of the queen's pawn. Again, the same principles are to be applied. Pawns in the center, develop the pieces, and castle the king. So let's say black does e5 here, knight f3. This is a fairly standard continuation. The knight attacks the pawn on e5. It's quite normal for black to develop his knight and then defend that pawn. This is pretty standard stuff. Bishop c4. Again, developing a piece. There is some tactics that sometimes can occur on this f7 square. I think if you guys are playing black here, it's probably important that you develop the bishop first. I like this move. Bishop e7 is good. It's nice and solid. Alternatively, bishop c5 is also an option. Let's stick with bishop e7. Okay, again, castle. Developing pieces, castling the king. Black now develops another piece. He attacks the e4 pawn. All right. So there's a couple ways to defend this pawn that tie in with us with our good moves. We can play rook e1, decent move. We can play d3, which helps to open up the bishop diagonal. And we can also play knight c3. Let's just go d3 here. Let's say black castles. So we've still got to develop these pieces. Let's go knight c3. Let's say black goes d6. Again, why? The purpose of getting the bishop out. Either one of these squares will do. e6 is good, g4 is good. And let's say white goes bishop e3. Black then proceeds with bishop g4. Okay, and this is again now both parties or both sides have developed all their pieces. They've castled the king. And, you know, this is good chess moves being played on both sides of the board. We see 7 moves have gone by and all the pieces have been developed. We've also got a little piece of the center. Everything's good. So here, what's the next story? Well, I think this is where we're going to continue a little bit here. Now we're going to say we need to activate the rooks and we need to break in the center. So first move I'm going to play is I'm going to go h3. And again, if I'm black, I'm like, why did this person go h3? Oh, he wants my bishop. I'm not sure. So black's got a couple options. Maybe bishop back or maybe bishop takes f3. These are 2 decent moves. Remember, the bishop's 3 points and the knight's 3 points. So to take the knight here would be an even trade and maybe not a bad idea. Let's do that for this discussion. And then black plays knight to d4. So I'm like, okay, he's played knight to d4. Looks like an interesting move. Can somebody tell me why? Why black has played knight to d4? Pop that in the chat, please. What could black be planning? Did he just feel like putting the knight there? Or has he got something up his sleeve? I have a feeling there's a plan of sorts. So we've got someone in the chat. Let's see what we've got here. Knight takes queen. Yes, the young man is on the ball. Well, the knight is looking to take the queen on f3. So if I was playing white here, I would probably just take this knight on d4. I think this would be my thought process. I'd be saying, I'm going to take this knight, and they're going to take back. Then they're going to be attacking my knight. But then I'm probably going to just move knight e2, which in turn will be attacking that pawn on d4. A little bit complicated, but seems good. So bishop takes, pawn takes, as discussed, knight e2, which attacks the pawn on d4. And I'll be like, okay, I'm kind of happy with this position. For this exercise, I'm going to go with an alternate move. I'm going to go queen g3. And this is, again, quite a useful option. Whenever you see the queen coming around the king, important to just try and have a look and just make sure that you've got everything covered. You can see the queen in the same file as the king. Looks a little bit dangerous. Some tactics lurking around. Let's say black just continues without paying attention to that. So the knight takes c2. Again, what is the knight attacking? Well, he took a free pawn. That's good news. He's also attacking our rook. Now I'm going to play an exciting move for white. And that is bishop h6. So my next question to you guys will be, why did white play bishop h6? What possible plan could white have for playing this move? There must be a reason. Well, there is a reason. Let's take a quick look. Let's take 30 seconds and see if we can identify why white has played bishop to h6. What could the plan be? I see the lead chess chat has gone a little bit quiet. Come on, guys. Let's get involved there. To help the checkmate develop. Okay, interesting. To help a checkmate. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. It has a lot to do with the checkmate. I'd prefer the actual checkmate threat, and that would be queen takes g7. You see the bishop supports the g7 square. So if black just continues mindlessly, white will go queen takes g7 and actually mates black immediately. The other thing that makes this move pretty good is that the black pawn can't take the bishop on h6, which is sort of the first thing that you should notice. Because why? Well, the black king is in the same line as the queen, and that now means that this pawn is pinned. He may not move off the g file because that would be moving the black king into check. So that would be an illegal move. So black's got a little bit of a tricky situation here. In a lot of cases, they have to maybe just play g6, which then allows the white bishop to take the rook on f8. Something like this would happen. And then probably white would choose to move the rook to c1 in a similar way that he did, or black did, in the previous example. But we're going to say here, black, let's say black just continues without paying any attention to these complications on g7, and he just plays knight takes a1, which then allows white to play queen takes g7 and deliver a spectacular little checkmate. All right, so that's that, and that would be game over in pretty quick fashion. Wouldn't really have been that good for black, but we saw it's quite easy to avoid, and it wouldn't have been, you know, let's say unstoppable or anything like that. Let's just recap again, guys. Good chess is played by following good or correct principles, and let's just follow through and see what we've got here. So again, pawns in the center, and then we start developing the pieces. Try not to waste moves, unnecessary moves, playing, let's say, a3 or b3 or h3. These moves don't help your position. They don't do anything for your position, okay? And it's important to make every move count. Okay, each move could be used in, you know, used well and used to improve your position. So again, we're not wasting any time. We're developing our pieces. Each move has a purpose. Each move is constructive. 7 moves, all pieces developed, king castled, central control, looking great. Okay, once you've accomplished that, then you can start to look for ways to attack like we did here, in this case of queen g3 and looking at this square. Alternatives include, like I said in the previous one, is centralizing the rooks, and then you can open up the center. These are the types of things you should be looking at doing once you've completed your development. Okay, guys, I think that's going to conclude our lesson for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Just a reminder, you've got some time now, like maybe half an hour. I'm going to still be online, and I'd like very much for you guys to play at least 1, preferably 2 games on the Lichess. Just to remind you where you have to go, just click lichess.org main menu, and you've got this big square block in front of you. I think you guys will be playing the rapid time control. So I'd choose a 10+0 or even a 15+10. If you guys want to play a little bit longer time control, the 30 minutes will work as well. Okay, so please do that now. And also, like I said, it would be great for you guys to just maybe play a game a day, or at least a handful of games. I think I asked you guys to do 5 games per week. But I mean, obviously more will be better. Practice makes perfect. Guys, keep up the good chess work. Good luck in your chess games. I hope you guys stay warm during this week. Take care and goodbye.